My name is Eric Eversole. I am the president of Hiring Our Heroes, and thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural kickoff of the Hiring Our Heroes Online Community Center. I know for many of you, like most Americans, it is a time packed with uncertainty. It's one that is creating some challenges for you and your family, but just know that Hiring Our Heroes is here for you and your family members to get you through this time period. I do want to say a couple things, and I'm going to turn it over to our special guest speaker this morning, and really hopefully get some motivation here. We obviously, this is the joy of working from home. I have my 4-year-old who is going to probably pass on some guidance and words of wisdom as well. But look, transition's tough. It's always been tough. And, now with the coronavirus, that's going to create some additional challenges for you and everyone else. But let me tell you, the reason that American business loves our military members so much is your ability to deal with chaos like I have right now, but uncertainty and being able to keep things in perspective. The reality is, hold on, sweetheart, hold on. I'll get right back to you. The reality is, that's what makes you so valuable. It allows you to see what matters, to focus on what matters, and to get the job done. And so, look, I'm going to give you a couple of things, and then I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Major Troxell for Motivation Monday. But look at your strategic plan. Think about whether it's sufficient. Go from there. Second, take care of your family. Keep things in perspective, because that's so important right now. And then look at our tools and resources to make sure that we're able to help you out. So look, before the chaos breaks out in the Eversole household, let me just turn it over for our inaugural kickoff of Motivation Monday to Command Sergeant Major John Wayne Troxell. John, it's all you.
Thank you, Eric. It's truly an honor to be here, and thank you so much for your leadership of Hiring Our Heroes. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, it's 7 a.m. out here on the West Coast. I've had a pot of coffee and been listening to gangster rap music, and I am fired up from the floor up, and I am ready for Motivation Monday here. I want to thank Toyota and Hiring Our Heroes for putting on this career community. This HOH career community is a virtual education and training center for transitioning service members, veterans, and military spouses. And I'm honored to kick it off with Motivation Monday, but I hope you also tune in for Transition Tuesday and Wellness Wednesday as we continue to push forward here. What I want to talk a little bit about today, I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes, and then I'd like to hear from you and get some Q&A going. But I'm going to talk about dealing with crisis like the one we're in right now with COVID-19, the coronavirus. Talk about some leader skills and give you a great leadership example of dealing through crisis, and then talk about having a plan. And so, one of the things that I've been intrigued with and, really has been on my mind for the last couple of weeks is the kinds of information that are being passed back and forth across the internet and social media during this crisis, and the amount of disinformation that has been passed along, unverifiable information, unreliable information that's there to create unrest and panic and cause panicky actions by people like hoarding of food and supplies, or just downright trying to make us feel sorry for ourselves. It's just amazing to me about how much this kind of disinformation will have an impact as we go through a crisis. And I will tell you, dealing through a crisis like we have right now, and let there be no doubt, it is dangerous, it is deadly, and we have to take it seriously. And what we need as we move through is we need leaders and we need positive people as we go through this. And I will tell you, when you hear things like stay at home, shelter in place, or social distancing, We can't take those for granted, and we have to execute them. But as we go through this crisis, we got to continue to have people and leaders at the forefront that are inspirational on how they do business, that are purpose driven, that provide motivation because they are motivated, and they can provide direction, and they're also disciplined in how they do business. It's critical. We also have to continue to operate on clear and concise communication as we move forward. We got to confirm or deny the rumors that we're hearing out there, and we don't pass them on unless it's a verified piece of clear and concise information. You know, I keep hearing this term, we're on lockdown, you know, and anybody that's served in the United States military knows that when you're on a lockdown, you're truly on a lockdown, meaning you can't go anywhere, and you are stuck in wherever you're at. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's a difference between stay at home and shelter in place and being on lockdown. And I will tell you, we are not on a lockdown right now. And so we have to use the proper language and use the guidelines that are set forth by not only our states or our federal government. And I will tell you, I live in the state of Washington right now, and we are at a stay-at-home, shelter-in-place order. But that doesn't mean that I cannot go out and go to the grocery stores and get the things that my wife and I need, that I cannot go out and get takeout food from a restaurant or order food to be delivered to my home. It does not mean that I cannot go out and do the things that I like to do. Anybody that knows me knows I'm an active person and I'm a PT kind of guy. And if I want to go out and go for a run, I go out and go for a run while executing my social distancing. If I want to go out and go for a ruck march, I go out for a ruck march, but I execute that social distancing. So we've got to continue to have clear and concise communication, operate off of that, and we got to have leaders and positive people that are passing on that clear and concise communication, all the while executing prudent risk that I talked about with the stay-at-home, shelter-in-place, and social distancing. We have to have leaders that are stoic in the face of this crisis. We all understand it's dangerous and deadly, and we have to execute that prudent risk I talked about. And even though we may have the same fears and concerns as others have, as a leader, we have to be stoic in the face of this crisis and understand that we're going to deal with this. And at a certain point, we are going to get on the backside of this arc or curve or whatever we want to call it of this virus, and life is going to continue to go on. You know, we also need people and leaders that are informing their teams or their families in a timely manner of the harsh realities of our situation with calm demeanor, and we got to speak in the first person. We own it, whether we are a leader or we're a head of a household or whatever we are, we own how we do business. And I will tell you, we've got to focus on things like, do I have everything I need as a member of my family or as a leader to be able to move forward? Not everything I want, but everything I need. And that's what we got to focus on. More, do we have what we need and not what we want? And in the end, the best skill and that we can have as a leader right now is being compassionate and executing humanity, because it's extremely important with the deadly virus that we're going through right now. And I want to give you a leader example. Every time I do some motivational speak, and especially here from Motivational Monday, I want to give you a leader example of, you know, someone that was executing compassion and humanity, but really all of the things I talked about. And I'm going to take you back to 2007, 2008 timeframe during the middle of the surge in Iraq. At that point in time, I was a Stryker Brigade Command Sergeant Major serving in Iraq, Surge Brigade number 4, as we moved in to try to bring stability and security in the country of Iraq. And we had been in country for about 9 months, and we had just recently moved to Diyala province on the eastern part of the country. And as I did normally I would go out and patrol every day. And then on this one day, I happened to go out and patrol with the Bayonet Company, 1st Battalion, 38th Infantry troopers, led by the platoon I was with was led by a lieutenant named Josh Wiles. And as I linked up with him for a night patrol, he told me that we were going to go visit an Iraqi family who most recently, their daughter, a little girl named Aziz Abbas, and her little brother, Shahad Abbas and her little brother, Aziz Abbas, had been walking to school when they stepped on an improvised explosive device. And the result of that, young Aziz lost his life, and Shahad became severely injured and became a bilateral amputee. And he and the members of that platoon had consistently gone over to check on that family to make sure that they were getting through this crisis, and that they were getting the help they needed. So as we patrolled over there in the middle of the dark, and we got in the backyard, we arrived, we greeted the family and everything, and I saw this little girl sitting in this oversized wheelchair. And, here she was, she had lost her legs, and, this was about a month or two after the incident, so she was healing quite nicely. And all of the other kids in the neighborhood and the family were running around, and she had to sit in this wheelchair. And as we talked through the interpreter with the family and the young girl, the family said that the young girl wanted nothing more than to be able to walk to school again with her classmates and to be able to play with her classmates. And as I normally did when I went out on patrol, I brought my chaplain, Major Scott Rydell, with me, so that he could come in and provide, spiritual counseling or inspiration or whatever. And so as we got in there and started talking, I really noticed a young NCO by the name of Staff Sergeant Luis Falcon, and that's who I want to talk about. Falcon was really fired up and was adamant about helping this family and making sure this young lady got her legs. And listening to him talk about the plan that he had and that he wanted to get after to get this young lady to Baghdad and get her prosthetics, I was really impressed by him. And while we were going through this, the chaplain comes up to me and says, "You know what? We've got a plan here. Why don't we do this? Us and the family, let's do a prayer together to say, hey, let's get after getting after this girl and getting her prosthetics." Now, I was a little skeptical at first because here we were, a bunch of Christian American troops in a backyard of this Iraqi family who were traditional Muslims. And I was a little skeptical about doing a Christian type prayer in a Muslim household. But as we worked through the interpreter, the family didn't have a problem with it. So here you have a bunch of hardened warriors on a knee in their combat gear, grabbing hold of this wheelchair, and Chaplain Rydell starting to give this prayer. And as he was going through his prayer, I looked up to make sure that we weren't doing anything to offend the family. And I saw the mother, the father, the aunts and uncles, and all praying in their traditional Muslim method. And I thought to myself at that time, for this 1 minute in time, here in this country of Iraq, with all of this unrest, all of this combat, and all of these bad things going on, for this 1 minute, the world was perfect, because Christians and Muslims were coming together to pray that a little girl could get her legs so she could get after the one thing, the one aspiration she had, to be able to walk to school again with her classmates and be able to play like she used to prior to the incident where she got injured. And after that was over with, I was so fired up about Staff Sergeant Falcon's plan and what the chaplain was there. I told the chaplain, I said, whatever Sergeant Falcon needs to make this happen, we're going to make sure we execute this. And we moved back out into the night and continued our patrolling. And fast forward a couple months later, about 3 weeks before we were redeploying, and I received a picture emailed to me. And it was Staff Sergeant Falcon with little Shahada Baz, and she had just been issued her prosthetics. And to see the smile on her face, it was just so fulfilling to me that after a 15-month tour, that we went through this action, and Staff Sergeant Falcon, being diligent, working through the red tape and the bureaucracy, he was able to accomplish the mission that he set out to get this little girl her legs. And just recently, and the reason I bring this up, a couple months ago, I received another picture emailed to me, and it was this same Shahada Baz, who's a young lady now, and she had just gotten engaged, and she's about to get married and start her family of her own. All of these things happen because a leader that was purpose-driven, Staff Sergeant Louise Falcon, had a mission, had a plan, fought through the red tape to get things done, got the support where he needed from the battalion and our brigade, and finished the mission. And I will tell you, that is the kind of leadership we need now as we move forward. So let's talk about having a plan, all right? Especially as we go through transition. First and foremost, we use a task or a phrase in the military that every task we do has to have a purpose, has to have a method, and has to have an end state. And I will tell you, when you are going through transition, you have to have a plan. What are you going to do when you get out of the United States military? Or as a veteran and a military spouse, what is the purpose for what you're going to do with your life? Then the method, how are you going to get there? What are the steps to get there? And in the end state, what do you want it to look like when it's all said and done? In order to get there, you got to make sure that you have a vision of where you want to be, both professionally and personally. And then you got to have priorities and prioritize key tasks that will get you there. Then you also have to understand who are the institutions or who are the people that can help me along the way. And I will tell you, Hiring Our Heroes is a great organization that will help you get to where you want to get to. And then you got to understand that as you go forward with your plan, you're going to face some adversity. You're going to face some roadblocks, and you're going to face some unforeseen circumstances. Do you have the drive? Do you have the focus? Do you have the discipline to fight through those kind of things and still reach your ultimate goal? That's what having a plan is all about. And why is having a plan so important? Because at any given time, for all of us, this military life is over with. I just retired in December after 37 years, 10 months, and 29 days of military service. Not that I was counting, but my wife, Sandra, reminded me all the time how long we had been in. And, you know, when I went to get my retiree ID card, I moved from Washington, D.C., where I finished out as the senior enlisted advisor of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I moved out here to Lakewood, Washington, where I live now, and have a retirement home. And as I went to get my retiree ID card, it came right in the face of me that this whole thing was over. As I went in there and, you know, going to get ID cards for my wife and I, you know, and I selected a number and sat down, and the young PFC that was doing the ID cards was coming out and calling numbers, and all of a sudden he comes out and calls my number. Hey, 34 or whatever the number was. And I said, yeah, right here. Now understand, I'm dressed kind of like I'm dressed now with a beard and everything. So I look nothing like a senior enlisted advisor, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And that's okay because I'm retired and I'm getting my retiree ID. And as I go in there, the kid takes my ID. He's putting my information in and everything. And he tells me as I go in, sit down, look at that camera, and we're going to take a picture. So at no time was he looking through my information or anything. He had a mission to do, and he was doing it, and he was focused on it. And as he got done with that ID card, you know, he takes my retiree ID card, he hands it to me, and he says, "Have a nice day, move out, next." The bottom line is this, ladies and gentlemen, when your military career is over with, I don't care what rank you served at. I don't care if you were the senior enlisted advisor to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When you're done, you're done. And we got to have a plan as we move forward to have service after that is commensurate with the kind of service we had when we were in. So as we move forward here, all of us have to be an example for inspiration and hope for our nation, the United States of America. We as Americans never run from a fight, and we're not going to be intimidated by this current situation with the coronavirus. We got to lose our fear of the virus, but we got to maintain our respect for how dangerous and deadly this virus can be. So let's all execute prudent risk as we move forward through the crisis, continue to stay positive, that we'll get through this as a nation. Do not pass on rumors or innuendo, and let's look out for each other. And I guarantee you we'll persevere and overcome this current crisis together as we execute social distancing and togetherness apart and from a distance. So the last thing I want to say is I want to kind of give a big shout out right now, and I would like you all to keep in your thoughts and prayers Sergeant Major Benny Adkins. Sergeant Major Adkins is a Green Beret Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam, and unfortunately he contracted the coronavirus, and he is fighting through that virus right now. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers. God bless you all out there. I wish you all good luck in your future, and keep up the fight. Thank you.